Welcome to INAN's Student. INN Student is a platform for law students to come here and deliver a lecture on the topic of their choice. Today we have with us law student Kahan Amlani. He is going to speak on the Dalal Street scam, Harshat Mehta case study. He is from KES Sri Jayantilal H. Patel College of Law. So without wasting further time, I would request him to commence with the lecture. Thank you.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Kahan Amlani and I am from Sri KES JP Law College. My topic is Dalal Street Scam, Harshat Mehta's case study. Consider these words. When the market was rising, they didn't call me a criminal. Instead, they called me a genius. But when it collapsed, they needed someone to blame. They called me a scapegoat. This line captures the essence of Dalal Street Scam, where perception in the financial market changed admiration into accusation. Since April 1992, one man in India believed that money can not only be earned but also be created. When we hear the word Dalal Street Scam, the one name often comes to our mind is Harshat Shantilal Mehta. To some, he was a scamster or fraudster, and to some, he was a genius. Still, he remains one of the most debated figures in Indian history. I am not here to glorify him nor blindly condemn him. I am here to critically analyze him. History often prevails simple villain, but in reality, it is far more complex. When one man could shake the entire system itself, the real question is whether that man was wrong or the system itself was fragile. In this environment, Harshat Mehta did not rise in secrecy. He rose in public view. Stock prices surged, investors made money, and Dalal Street celebrated him. His followers started saying, Mehta na Rajma, market majama. This contradiction of scam lies in the heart of the case. The man who symbolized the market optimism and liberalization was later presented as the sole villain of institutional failure. The shift from genius to criminal occurred not instantly, but after the consequences of systematic weakness, it became visible. This speech is not merely about a scam. It is about a white-collar crime, regulatory failure, and thin critical line between the legal guilt and public perception. I will place the facts before you and not the conclusive judgment, so that by the end you are able to decide by yourself. First, let me give you the brief overview of the scam. The Dalal Street scam 1991 to 1992 was not a conventional theft. It was a manipulation of trust within India's financial system. At the center of it, Harshat Mehta, a stockbroker who identified and exploited serious loopholes in the Indian banking mechanism, governed by government securities and transactions. During this period, banks often used a system known as ready forward deals, where securities were temporarily exchanged between the banks to manage the short-term liquidity. Instead of actual securities, bank often relied on bank receipts (BR) as a proof of transaction. These BR were meant by government securities, but in practice, there were no physical securities present without any real backing. Harshat Mehta took advantage of this haywire system and found a loophole. By routing this unsecured banking money into stock market, he created artificial demand for selected shares. As a result, stock prices rose sharply, not because of company's fundamentals, but because of the excess liquidity. The Sensex hovered around 1200 points to 4500 points within a short span, creating a market euphoria that attracted widespread public attention. However, when the banks started demanding actual securities instead of paper assurance, the system collapsed. Liquidity dried up, stock prices crashed, and what followed was panic. Investigations revealed that dried up stock prices crashed, and what followed was panic. What was initially celebrated as market brilliance soon became synonymous with deception, leading to criminal prosecution. regulatory reforms, and permanent shift in how India's financial market were governed. Now I would like to place some critical facts before you. In the period of scam, a market legend made approximately 30 to 35 crores after the market was collapsed after 1991 to 1995 period range. You can mention the name in the comment section. Now I will present the key case laws before you. When the scam came into light, the narrative shift from Dalal Street to courtroom, where public perception and legal reality diverged sharply. What follows was not a single trial, but extensive litigation, where there were dozens of civil and criminal cases. Where public presumed guilt, courts were bound by evidence, intent, and proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The distinction that became decisive when the matter reached the Supreme Court of India. In majority of cases, criminal convictions against Mr. Mehta could not be sustained. Roughly around 70% of proceedings did not cumulate him in the criminal guilt, not because of wrongdoing was condemned, but because of the complex and the multi-institutional transactions. The Supreme Court rejected presumptive criminality. In Arshad Shantilal Mehta versus Custodian and others, 1998 5 SSC 1, the court held that assets could not be automatically treated as illegal and that each transaction required independent scrutiny. The principles were reaffirmed in Harshad Shantilal Mehta versus Custodian and ANR 1998 8 SSC 257, where the court ruled that attachment must be transaction specific and burden of proof remained on the prosecution. Even in matters of recovery distribution, the court maintained that procedural discipline in Harshad Shantilal Mehta versus Custodian 2005 4 SSC 417, it held that recovery must be followed statutory safeguards and not be driven by public outrage. Further, the principal criminal appeal itself resulted into split verdict, highlighted how contested criminal liability remained even after the highest judicial level. From a market perspective, 1991 to 1992 bull run provided extraordinary short-term returns. Stocks such as ACC surged from around rupees 200 to nearby rupees 9,000 within the months, with similar spikes in Sterlite, Videocon and many other stocks. These gains, however, were fragile, driven by concentrated buying and amplified demand rather than sustainable fundamentals, and reversed sharply once liquidity dried up. The Sensex itself crossed from 3,000 to 4,000 points before collapsing, reflecting a market shift, wide boom and bust. A Sensex-like investment made around the 1992 peak and held over the decades, multiplied roughly around 15 into 30 years, demonstrating that long-term compounding despite the short-term crisis. Crucially, the market structure explains that during the time of Mr. Mehta, the market participation was only 1%, and in today's era, the market participation is around 9 to 10% of household, supported by digital access, real-time disclosures, and institutional oversight, making such outsized influence far harder to replicate. Now, I would like to say that if Mr. Mehta was alive today, what will be the speculations? If Mr. Mehta was alive today and operating in the modern financial markets, the key questions would not be whether he could make money, but how much he could have made within a regulated system. What sets him apart was not just access, but his high conviction investment style, sharp market timing, and the deep understanding of market psychology. Qualities that continue to define successful fund managers today. These skills are not illegal. They are valuable when applied with compliances. If such abilities were challenged through legitimate avenues like regulated fund management, institutional trading, wealth creation, and would depend on the large scale and long term compounding rather than the manipulation. Even conservative assumptions shows that a legally managed portfolio growing at around 18 to 20% annually over 2 or 3 decades could expand into approximately 10,000 crores. Given his ability to attract capital and command market confidence, it is reasonable to speculate his personal net worth through management fees, incentives, and equity stakes could have reached around rupees 10,000 to 20,000 crores over a time, similar to leading market participation today. However, this outcome would depend entirely on discipline and transparency. Today's market impose strict surveillance. Success would require adaptation, not excess. This speculation is not about defending the past. It shows the same intelligence that once de-established a weaker system could, under a strong regulation, have produced sustainable and legitimate wealth. So now the question arises that how should Harshad Mehta be remembered? As a criminal who manipulated the system, as a symbol of regulatory failure, or as a market operator who exposed institutional weakness, or cautionary tale of ambition outrunning legality? Well, the law does not answer these questions in absolute. Instead, the court decides cases on the basis of empirical evidence, intent, and the statutory limits. Society, however, seeks moral clarity often faster than the law can provide it. In this case, the gap between the legal outcome and public perception is impossible to ignore. What is undeniable is this: no single individual can divert thousands of crores without systematic silence. Banks fail to verify, regulators reached late, oversight mechanisms were weak. This system allowed the condition for white collar crime to exist, and when it collapsed, responsibility narrowed to one visible face. The Harshad Mehta case therefore teaches us something larger than the story of one man. It teaches us how white collar crime thrives, and where trust replaces verification, where growth outspaces the governance, and where intelligence is unchecked by the ethics. As a future lawyer, policymaker, and citizen, it is our role not merely to condemn or defend, but to close all the loopholes, ensure accountability, and pace with an ambition. Because the next white collar crime will not declare himself, rather, he will come through the gaps and we fail to close. Whether Harshad Mehta was good or bad, innocent or guilty, is for the history and conscience to debate. What the law demands from us is clarity, caution, and commitment to ensure that the market grows, but never at the cost of integrity. Thank you.
Kahan, thank you very much. A different perspective you have given to that case, because that case was really a case where people were not knowing whether the law was proper or whether the law was adequate. So it was a very confusing stage. So a nice perspective you have given in this particular thing. And as you have rightly said, being a future lawyer, you are looking in a different manner. So thank you very much. A small token from Hammurabi to you.
Thank you, sir.